This girl was supposed to be a hero, but somehow, she had fallen for the Demon King. Just recently, the 233rd hero, Alice, led her team to the gates of the Demon King's castle, but standing in their way was the Demon King's younger sister, Lilith, a succubus. With a swift move, Lilith appeared in front of Alice, arrogantly declaring that she would turn her into a collectible figurine. Alice couldn't bear the insult. She immediately drew her legendary sword and prepared to take down the demon. At first, Lilith didn't take Alice seriously, but when Alice cast a spell, Frozen Chill, Lilith realized that Alice was far stronger than she had anticipated. The intense cold closed in, and Lilith was forced to go on the defensive. Alice seized the opportunity, striking hard and pinning Lilith to the ground. Without wasting any time, Alice summoned her hero's binding shackles and locked Lilith's arms and legs tightly. Just when Alice thought she had completed her mission and could celebrate, the sage from Routine summoned a monstrous creature that resembled a whale. The sage bragged about how his summon could level the entire Demon King's castle. He was so confident that he activated the monster's power, causing it to explode with terrifying energy. Alice wanted to speak up and beg for the demon's mercy, but the sage didn't listen. He manipulated the magic crystal, and the creature unleashed its devastating power. However, what no one expected was that the Demon King himself, Merlin, single-handedly blocked the attack, stopping the creature dead in its tracks. The sage was left completely flustered, not knowing what to do next. Then, Merlin descended gracefully, his elegance almost making Alice forget the threat he posed. With a swift motion, he planted one foot on Alice's face, casually releasing Lilith from her shackles. Outraged, Alice was ready to challenge the Demon King directly. Before she could even move, Merlin appeared in front of her in an instant, his presence freezing Alice in place. She had never imagined that the Demon King would be so handsome and charming. With just a flick of his finger, he sent Alice flying backwards with an invisible force. Merlin, in his calm demeanor, recalled that the sage was the only survivor from the last battle, a coward who wet himself just from Merlin's unsheathing his blade. Furious at being reminded of his past shame, the sage was determined to redeem himself. He ordered the priests to chant a powerful incantation, channeling all the magic into the whale-like monster. The sage gritted his teeth and summoned the monster's full power, pushing it to 1000%. Though the power was enough to intimidate most, it was completely laughable in Merlin's eyes. Merlin's eyes glowed red as he slowly placed his hand on his sword. With a single, swift motion, he drew the blade, sending a dazzling arc of light through the air. The whale monster above the sage was split in half in an instant. The sage, utterly terrified, collapsed at Merlin's feet, groveling and begging for mercy. In a last-ditch effort to save himself, he claimed he had been forced by Alice to pledge loyalty to Merlin and would help him from now on. Just then, the sound of a castle clock chimed, and Merlin was startled. He had a deep fear of the weekly reports meeting. Hastily, he drew his sword, thinking he could wrap up the battle quickly and return to the castle. However, to his surprise, the high-ranking officials in the castle were furious with him. They scolded him mercilessly for killing everyone so easily. He had wiped out all of his subordinates, which meant no money would come in, and without money, there were no results to report. Merlin attempted to defend himself, but the high-ranking officials pulled up the data. The 6th Demon King had successfully plundered the northern treasury. The 3rd Demon King had exchanged a human princess for 10 million gold coins. The 2nd Demon King had gained massive traffic by hosting a concert and topped the headlines. Merlin, on the other hand, was at the bottom of the rankings, with the worst performance in the history of the Demon Kings. Defeated by the constant pressure from his superiors, Merlin finally decided to resign. However, the finance department presented him with a bill showing the damages to the Demon King's castle,